All right, we'll go ahead and get started. We don't have any questions yet, but let me just go over what I like to touch on first every time, and that is where to find our resources. So you know that our sports center is down here in the purple widget. You can also email help@opentoclose.com if you want to get your questions answered. If it's something about the program, definitely send us a video from like a loom.com or somewhere like that. It does speed up the response time, probably 10x on those, so we can see actually where you're at in the program and what's actually happening. And it just really helps our sports staff get started. So besides the help down here and contacting our support, under the Learn tab, you are going to have your knowledge base. And then you're also going to have our webinars that you can sign up for. So group sessions that you can sign up for, also these workshops that we're in right now. But if you're having trouble with specific things, documents, creating properties, just using open to close, settings and integrations, fields, emails, text, whatever, sign up for those classes. There's a morning session and an afternoon class, and those are really helpful for when you're struggling with a certain aspect of the program. They give you a lot of best practices and just kind of overview of what those, how to use those in the best way. So it's a great way to get started. So again, under the Learn tab, you get your knowledge base and where you can search for articles, videos, things like that. But you also have that, you also have these webinars as well. Okay. We have our first question. It says, is there a way to have a doc template automatically create when you add a property using the intake form with the premium plan plus account? Yeah, so have a doc template automatically create when you, I think what you're saying is not create, but get inserted into, applied to the transaction, I'm assuming. I'm going to go with that. If you meant something different, definitely let me know. But yes, so when you're in your intake forms and you're creating your intake forms, let me just go in here. So there's a couple different things about these intake forms that we're going to point out here. First is the form conditions. This is the form builder. This is how the form grows as people are filling it out. So like if you have a referral question, is there a referral, yes or no? You want to make sure that if they say yes, you're getting additional information that would be in the form conditions, right? So you could say, hey, if there's a referral, I need these extra fields filled out, the percentage, the agent, I need this document uploaded, I need this extra contact for the referral agent filled out. You see, you can do all that by building through these form conditions, and you can add all that stuff here. But getting to your question, the form triggers are what's going to come into effect here. And the form triggers, I don't know if I have a document template in here, but I could create one. Let me go to template. Down here too. Okay. So when you're creating a trigger, so you're just going to add a trigger, you can say when it's submitted by the agent. This could be the TC too, but the agent's typically filling out these initial intake forms. So that's why it says by agent. If your TCs are filling it out instead of the agent, just substitute agent for TC here. When it's approved internally, this is after it's submitted, you get the notification, you fill out the secondary questions that you have set up in your intake form, and then you approve the transaction to actually become the transaction. So what's going to happen when that, when you approve it internally is there's another set of triggers that may happen as well. So you can set triggers off when the agent fills it out, and then you can set a second set of triggers off after it's approved by the TC. So let's just say that this is after the form submitted, we want to add a template. And then you can add that here. And then you can choose your template. So I come down to my document templates, and maybe there's more than one I want to add. Maybe I want to add the document template and that document template. Close that. We're going to turn this on, and we're going to open up the options here. And then we need to set a condition. So let's just pretend that in this case, whenever this field, let me see if there's a field in here. Let's just say referred by is not blank. So if there's a referral on this property, then I want to add in these two document templates. Or you can create any kind of condition you want. You can base it off a person, you can base it off a document being present or not present. But most of the time these are fields, just because you have so much, you have so many fields in the system. Now, if I want to create another condition, I can here. I can come over and say also the file role, whatever, I'm just going to pick one, exists in the property. So that could be your second condition. But what I want to show you is the ability to create OR conditions. So if you click on this blue part, it says you're creating a child condition, and you can create another condition, and we'll just grab anything here. Additional rooms is blank. This doesn't make sense, but I'm just trying to put it in here quickly. So now you have an OR. So it's this has to be true, and this or this have to be true. Okay, so you can get pretty advanced with these conditions. But now when you click on this template, you can see that these are being added if that condition is true. So once it meets all of these, then it's going to say go ahead and initiate the document template for Andrew test and initiate the HOA docs document template. So that's how you would do it. And that'll happen automatically by filling out the intake form. So then that way, and you can do that with all kinds of templates. So you see down here, I have a document template, I have a task template, I have another task template, I have a date template. You can put all your templates in here and trigger them off of things so that when you fill out that intake form and you answer, is there solar, is there well, is there septic, is there FERPTA, is there, all these things that could affect your transaction, it will go based off those questions and build the transaction the correct way so that you only have the tasks you need. If it's financing, I need tasks that have to do with financing. If it's I'm trying to think of something else. If it's an HOA, you have HOA stuff that you need to deal with, whether that's tasks or documents or triggers or fields or whatever. So you can have all those things automatically trigger to come into the transaction so that when you get into that finance transaction with an HOA, that you have the correct tasks, the correct documents to upload, you have the correct fields in there, you have the correct everything. So just going to make your life a lot easier. So sorry, that was a little long-winded, but I wanted you to see that process of how to actually put that trigger in. Okay, is there a way to trigger the property field template to be added, property field template, okay, to be added automatically under the intake form? So so you said property field template. So I'm going to tackle two here just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. If you're talking about field templates, no. Field templates are only used for manually adding properties. So if you're not using the intake form, you want to manually add a property. Let me get in here. Okay, we're not going to talk about these yet. So when you come in here to a new property, then you could come down to your well, yeah, actually, let me tackle that now. So in here is where you would do all of your manual creations of properties. Now, we also have property templates. So you said property field templates. So there's field templates. That's a list of fields that's going to replace the existing fields you have in the property. So if I apply a field template, it's going to take out all the other fields and apply just what's in that field template. Okay, more for a manual transaction. There's also things called property templates. Don't be confused by those. These are if I want to apply one template and have a bunch of other templates come in. So I just don't want to have to apply the field template, apply the task template, apply the whatever, and keep applying. So what you can do is you can create like a package deal of all these. And grab one of these, grab a bunch of these. Okay. So now I have a bunch of these. Every time I apply the training ops template, it's actually going to put in this, put in this, put in this, put in this, put in this. So I have to click one time, but 5 different templates are coming in. And that's how you use property templates. So Laura, let me know if that answers your question, just to make sure that you understand the difference between a field template and a property template. And if you're talking about something completely different, I can cover that as well. Okay, we're out of questions right now. So I'm just going to touch on this over here too. Under the profile, you have your plan and billing. You can update your billing yourself. You don't have to contact support every time you need to change billing. You can definitely do that yourself. You also have the ability to come into the sports center here. You have the idea lab. If you guys have ideas, put them in there. We look at those every quarter. We're in the process, I think, of cleaning this up and actually adding a couple more things where we can put notes to you guys, letting you know where this is at in the process. Keyboard shortcuts are really helpful to zip around the program. And then the change log, our staff spends a lot of time putting in changes to the, if you see something different, you can always come into the change log and see what was updated. So you can see here that there's account onboarding, there's some property table and field view changes. So you can come in here and check this out. All right. Next question. When you use a property template, it's with, I'm not sure what that says, but you have manually execute each trigger that was applied. Is there a way to avoid this? I don't think you need to do that, Brittany. Let me check here real quick. So if I apply a property template to this, let me say apply property template, and I'm going to apply that one that I just created because it had 5 in there. Are you sure you want to apply this property template? This could take several minutes. It's just letting you know if you have like, 10 templates and they have 100 tasks in each one, it's going to take a minute. So let me say yes. And now it's going to give you a message up here. It says loading your property template. Will be done in a second. And so this is just going to load. You can go do something else. So I can come over, and bounce into another transaction, take care of something, because I don't know how big those ones were that I actually put in there. So if I come back in, and now I can refresh the property. So it was successfully applied, refresh the property, and all of that stuff should be in there now. So there you go. So I'm not sure I quite understood, because there was like a typographical error, I think, at the beginning of that second sentence. So I wasn't sure what exactly you meant, but you don't have to apply. You don't have to come in here and say, apply template, apply this one, and then apply the next template and apply the next template. You can just apply all 5 at one time, or all 10 at one time. Now be careful if you're using those, because a lot of the times, let's pretend the example I used earlier, it's financed and has an HOA. Well, typically you're not going to make 1,000 of those property templates to cover every situation. And that's why it's better to use the intake forms. That's why it's better to say, even if the TC and not the agent's filling out those intake forms, it's a better process, because now you can set your triggers and say, if there's an HOA, apply my HOA docs, apply my HOA tasks, apply my HOA triggers, apply my HOA fields. If there's financing, apply and you may want to have a secondary question, what kind of financing, right? Because VA, you may have to do 2 or 3 extra things on a VA file that you don't have to do on a conventional file. So now you can say, if it's financing, or if it's VA financing, then put in this template and this template. If it's conventional, just put in this one. And so you can get pretty sophisticated with the intake forms and using those instead of having to apply manually. Okay. Can you schedule one sheet to stop on a certain date? Example, the transaction closed, but there's still a seller lease back. So you want the one sheet to go through to the end of the lease back with the updates, then stop. No, I believe you have to manually end that. Now that's a good idea. Craig, there is, we do have that in another area of the program that we haven't released yet. We have a pick this date to end on. So it might be something that we could add. Go ahead and throw that in the idea lab. That's actually a really good idea, but let me go in here and just, oh, I don't want to preview this. Actually, I want to, I don't think I have that option anywhere, but I'm just going to check it. I'm going to check this and see. So layout, design, schedule and send, preview, download. Nope, no, they don't have that option, but that would be a good one to have here. Just say, pick an end date. And then what we could do is you could either put a date in there, or you could pick a field, and then whatever's in that field would trigger that to stop. And like I said, we do have that built for another feature that's coming in the future. So it'd probably be pretty easy for us to insert that in. Okay, cool. Does everyone has to be assigned to the transaction to be able to access it? Well, depending on the wording we're using here. So they have to be a part of the team that's assigned to the transaction, yes. So if you come into your organization and your teams, what a lot of people will do is they'll come in here and let's just say that they want someone just to have access to it. They'll just stick this person on here and they won't put any roles on them. So they'll just be in there. They are on the team, but they're not being assigned any tasks. They're not being assigned anything at all. But that gives them the ability now to, when you come over to like the property screen, they'll be able to see everything here. They'll also be able to get into the property if they need to. So yeah, you need to be on the team assigned to the transaction. And if you're not sure if you're assigned to the team on the transaction, you can, let me just click this. You can always come over here to the More tab and go to access. And oops, sorry, I did that too quick. And you're going to see the people that are on there and what their roles are. Okay. And you can reassign this if you need to. You can also come down and see what agent portal users are on here. You can add more than one, I believe, if you're on the middle plan or up. And then you have your client portal users as well. So you have all that right there. Can you show an example of how to clone an email using the field replacement feature? Yes, I haven't done this in a long time, so I will be refreshing my memory as we're going through it. I remember when I first set up my program, this was like a must, because I think what this was originally, I think the reason why I originally came up with this was because like, okay, this is a accepted buyer email. And let's just pretend this one doesn't apply to this, but let's pretend that I can write a very similar email, but it's going to be for a seller instead of a buyer. So what I would do is I would say clone this. I want to clone it. And then I'm going to select, I can put it in a category if I want. So it's going to be in my seller category instead of my buyer category. Don't worry about this yet. You guys, most of you don't have access to messages yet, but if you're on our top tier plan, you do. Messages is going to be a way to get rid of email and text and send everything through a message that comes back into the program, and it hits them in their email and text messages. So the client doesn't know it really any different. You're still sending them emails and text, but when they reply, it comes back into the program. So that's on our top tier plan. So find, let me say buyer. Let me just say that, let me replace it as seller. And then let me clone this and let me see if that, so accepted offer, it put seller in there. It found the buyer, it put the seller in there. Now, I don't know if it does it actually in the email. Let me check that. I don't know if there's anywhere in here that we wrote seller buyer. Let me try that again, and I'll use the word escrow and change it to something funky so we can see if it actually changes in there as well. But it did do it in the actual template. Let's see here. So let me clone this one. Clone. And let me say this is going to be in my seller too. And let's say escrow. I'll change it to that. Okay. Where was that? So nope, it didn't change it in there. So it's just, I think it's just changing the name of that. I'll find out for you because Craig, to be honest with you, I haven't done this in like a year and a half. I haven't used that feature since I've set up my system. So, and now I don't really deal with my system much. So if one of the staff that, one of my staff that's on here knows how that works intimately, let me know. Otherwise I'll get an article, or maybe it's in the knowledge base, but I'll pull something for you and send it if someone can just remind me to send Craig that. Okay, can we resend or forward a previous sent email? Well, it depends. So if you're Craig said, thank you, Andrew. I spent way too much time making individual emails. Yeah, I agree. And there was a way, I believe, Craig, at some point to change like the merge fields from one to another, but I'm going to have to refresh my memory. It's just been way too long since I've done that. So I'll get you some info on that for sure. Okay, can we resend or forward the previous sent email? So if you're in Google, obviously they're being sent through Google, so you can do anything you want through your Google or Microsoft APIs. Now, if you're using SendGrid, let me see, because we just added a feature in here not too long ago. Okay, so your sent emails now are visible under the emails tab, and under property emails, you do have emails here, but I don't think you can forward them. I think they're just for so that you can see the threads coming through. And obviously these don't look good because we were just testing like crappy emails that we had in here as a test, but you can see the threads now of the emails going back and forth. Let me go to my sent email here. And let me actually, yeah, you're not able to resend those here. That would be kind of a cool idea, Laura. If you don't mind putting that in the idea lab, it'd be kind of cool to have a little like button here that says resend, like two little arrows kind of in a circle pointing towards each other or something, like a refresh almost. or even like a ping, like you could resend that. That would kind of be a cool idea. Forward to, but yeah, if you're using the APIs, then most people have Google as a tab here and then open to close here. So I would just pop over to my Google and go to my sent emails and go ahead and resend it or forward it or whatever. All right. All right, we are out of questions. A lot of people miss this. Global settings. I'm going to come down here because I just had a conversation with someone that didn't know this was here. Under your global settings, you have a bunch of like calendar settings and text settings and all kinds of fun stuff you can look through here. But the one I wanted to point out, well, actually, this is kind of a cool one too. So .loop, if you're using .loop, SkySlope, or Brokerment, you can match these up by the contact email address. I like to do that instead of the internal ID. That way it's looking for that email. If it matches up, then so when importing .loop contacts, use the following attribute to look up contact data when inserting or updating a contact record. It's going to look for that email address. So if you have a different name on it, it'll still look for that email address and know that it's a duplicate coming in there. So that's kind of a cool little thing. But this is the one I wanted to point out. These defaults, a lot of people don't even know these are here, and they have a big effect on the program. So trigger roles, I'll skip this. It's a little bit more advanced, but like the file must exist in there for it to process conditions, or you can process the conditions without. Depends on if you're using file roles. Everyone should be using file roles in the system. I mean, it gives you a lot of efficiency, but some people, for whatever reason, decided not to. If you're not, then you can set this appropriately. I'm renaming the file. So like I have all my files named the same on every single file. Like RPC is my residential purchase contract. That's what I call it in my state. And then I have a BS for a buyer sign, SS for seller sign, FE for fully executed. So when my agent sends me a file and it says 123 Main Street, XYZ, ABC, 123, whatever, they have this big long string of crap that, doesn't make sense. I go ahead and just change the file role to RPC FE for purchase contract executed. And it's going to update the name. It's going to take that name that the agent sent me and totally redo that name for me. So that one's really helpful. A lot of people are wondering why their templates are out of order, or like they're like, wait, they're not in the order that I wanted them in. Well, you put them on user sorted, and then they'll stay in the sorting that you put them in instead of A to Z. So if you see them A to Z and you don't want them that way, come in here and change your file sorting. This merge fields, it tells you what it does. It just strips off some of these labels. One sheets, there's some stuff you can do with that. This is for the agent portal so that they have more filters. So if your agent's actually using the portal or the app, they can go through and do a lot more filtering with their properties as well. Then a lot of people don't like that BR button in the documents. You can take that out. And intake form review stage. This will affect all intake forms. Do not change the setting unless you are positive you want to disable intake form validation. So by setting this to disable, an intake form will no longer validate if all required fields, documents, and contacts are filled in before an intake form can be submitted. So the submit button will be shown regardless. So you decide whether you want that or not. But just a lot of people didn't know where this was, so I kind of wanted to point that out. Which plans has the SkySlope settings in the template menu? I see it on your screen, but I don't have it. Which plans have? Oh, the reason you probably don't have it is if you don't have your, let's see here. So if I come into the apps and APIs, so sorry, that was under the little gear icon here. So if you go under the gear icon and then apps and APIs, come over here and manage your profiles. I think it might say add a profile actually at the beginning when you don't have any in here. Once you add a profile, then that will show up. And so it's on any of our plans. SkySlope is available on any plan. And then once you get your API and your secret and all that stuff that you have to put in there from SkySlope, then you can come over here and you'll have this ability. So you can either link it or you can export this property to create a property over on SkySlope. It's under the template menu. Okay, let me check that. Oh, I'm sorry. Back where I was. Sorry. Under the organization, or sorry, under the global settings. Is that what you're talking about here? SkySlope settings. If you don't have this, just take a quick video or screenshot and send that to our support team. and we will get that fixed up for you. Now, if you don't have your SkySlope API, and like I said, for the other thing, then it's probably not going to show up. So make sure that you have that API set up and get your secret and all that stuff set up, and then see if it appears first. If it doesn't still, oh, you found it. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Okay, what else? We are out of questions. So
since we're looking at the SkySlope API, would you mind showing the API templates just for Laura? So as you're going through and you make that connection to SkySlope, when we go into our templates, we'll also want to make sure that we have an API field mapping template set up for that SkySlope integration as well. This is just to say the fields within open to close match the fields within SkySlope, and how do they match? So when you set up that SkySlope integration, definitely come in here, take a look at your API field mapping templates, and then create one at least for your listing and for your sale. It doesn't need to be a specific person if you're going to be, using all of them for everyone, but definitely want to create one of these too to make sure the fields actually map over correctly.
yeah, so if you have an admin account, you can get by with creating, just one connection to SkySlope. But if you guys work and like every agent has their own like login for SkySlope, and you don't have access through like an admin account, you can go ahead and add like 50 accounts. I don't know what the limit is. I don't think there is a limit, to tell you the truth. I think you could add like 50 SkySlope accounts on here as you want.
Yeah.
Now, when you come in here, you're going to have 50 things listed there. And so you're going to have to pick the right one when you're creating this field map, because the field map for John may be different from the field map for Betty, So just make sure you're selecting the right one, what office, but you may have 50 different offices and you just want it for one office. So you can put that in here. And then once you create this, so I said, this is my SkySlope API. Once I create this, now I have this, and you can see the API is SkySlope. And when I edit it, it's going to SkySlope, and it's going to pull over all of the fields. So now it's going to pull, these are all the SkySlope fields. So it just pulled all those in for me. And now I can go and select my open to close fields that I need to. Obviously this is wrong, but if I did this, then anything in additional rooms would actually sync over to MLS number in SkySlope. Okay. So my fields don't match. I'm not sure what that means, Calvin. Can you, your fields don't match, like you're saying, the fields that come up in that field map don't match with what's in SkySlope?
It might not match because, again, it's going to say, here are the fields that are available in SkySlope. If those fields have not been added into your open to close system, then you're not going to see them there. So if they're asking for, I don't know, I have to think of one. Yeah, open up a list. Let me see if there is one there that I can't.
Well, just using this example,
Yeah.
Calvin, if you're saying that you're missing a field in this right side that you have in SkySlope, it's because, well, there's a couple of different reasons it could be. You could have set your field map up with just listings. So when you add new, there's a couple of different things you need to be aware of here. First of all, you have to have the right API. So let's assume that you have one and that's not the issue. Okay. Then you have to select your office. Let's assume you have one so that that's not the issue. The property type, make sure that you're selecting the right one here. You're going to need one for your sales, which are transactions, and one for your listings. You're going to need separate ones for those. So make sure you're choosing the right one there. And then, let's see, you sent me a link to something, but, and then a template name here. So make sure these are correct. If it's still not pulling, then we'll send that to support and get them to look into your individual situation. There's probably just, who knows what it is. It's probably something on the SkySlope side, but we'll take a look for sure. And for some reason, it won't pull Tennessee. Interesting. Probably something with the API. We can look at the back end and just see what the API connection looks like and make sure yours is firing on all cylinders. We'll take a look. And then someone on my staff, if you can grab that link and we can watch whatever that is, if he sent us a video or something like that. So
yeah, I grabbed the video. I'll take a look at it right now.
Okay. Do any of the integrations offer more detailed reporting on tasks or contract status details? Trying to find a solution for managing multiple teams. Tell me more, Brittany. what more do you want? I guess give me an example or just give me a little bit more detail in there. As far as reporting goes, let's see, on tasks. So are you still managing tasks in the integrations, or I guess I'm just not fully understanding. So we'll wait for her to give me a follow-up on that before we answer it. Yeah, all the tasks, I mean, maybe I'm talking about the wrong thing here, but all the tasks, we try to get them all into open to close and then set our filters here so that we can report on individual users. And then I can see, or individual teams. So here's your teams. Then you can see how many. Now we don't have it completed on here. That's one thing that we have been asked to do and we're looking into is maybe have, the problem with completed is it could be a million things. Like it's the history of the whole program. So we'd have to put some filters on just the completed as well, because when you go to load this, you don't want to have 50,000 completed tasks loading every single time you open up the screen. It would be slow as anything. So we have been asked to do that. We're still kind of working on a concept for that. Maybe in the future, we'll take a look at completed, and that way you can see how many you have to do, how many you completed by day, by whatever. Not sure if Brittany's still there, but let's see, integrations, anything integration stuff, more detailed reporting on tasks or contract status details. Yeah, we can dig into this, Brittany. I think I meet with you sometime this week, maybe today. And we could talk about this on tasks and also utilizing this property, utilizing this to look at certain contract statuses that are maybe anything that's closing in the next 7 days that's still pending or, whatever. We can use a lot of these filters on here. And there are some integrations that are really helpful. Like you could say, hey, every day at 5 o'clock, I want to export all my data out of the close and put it into a Google Sheet or put it into DataBox and then let DataBox show me all these cool graphs and stuff. If you are on the upgraded plan, also you have some reporting things here that you can do as well, but just not on like task completed. That would kind of be a cool thing that we could do probably for your users. And then we could say, hey, Adam West had 87 tasks this week and completed, 50 of them or whatever. So yeah, Brittany says it's a lot of detail. Sounds like you have a solution. We'll talk later. So anyone else that's looking for like advanced reporting on some stuff like that, let me know. We can talk individually and come up. Every business is a little bit different on how they report. So I hate to kind of give you a general overall, but we would like to add a little bit more in here over time and give you some more access to activity. So probably an activity screen too, to show you like, what's the overall of my whole company? Like what was done last, like an ongoing list of, hey, this task just got completed. Hey, this phone call was just made. Hey, this field was just changed. And then be able to parse that down to say, just show me all my changes on fields, just show me all my changes on documents, just show me all my, you get the point. But having like an activity screen more so than reporting to kind of give an overall view to the ops managers and things like that out there so that they can see what's happening in real time with their company. If people are working, not working very hard, things like that. So cool. We are out of questions. We're at 11:35. If you guys have more questions or just kind of want to tell me where you're at with the program, anything you're struggling with, even if it's very general, tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me what you're having the most trouble with. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. What you're having some wins with, anything special that you're saving tons of time with that we can share with the group. That would be helpful as well. I actually found where you can forward your emails from OTC. Oh, the email box. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't use the email box, so I forget about that sometimes. But if you go in here, and I can't open this because I think I have an actual email hooked up to this, but if you go into this email box, oh no, I have a dummy account hooked up. I can get in here. So yes, here you go. So here's an email. And there you go. Now you can forward it or reply or whatever from here. I don't use this. I just have Google opened up on the side because I have the Google API. So it's hooking back and forth. And I just like Google gives me more of an interface. With the API, they don't give us a ton of things that we can do here. And so, it's just limiting. I can't say send this in 2 hours from now, things like that I like to use. And so, but if you're okay with just a quick forward or something like that, it's also great for attachments. down here with the attachments, where are the attachments? Here we go. Oh, well, that's my email. So let me go back here. Anyway, with the attachments, you can actually open them up and save them right into open to close. So come here. Here we go. So these attachments right here, you can, and here are the threads. Okay. Where do the one sheet templates go when you create them? They live right here in the one sheet templates under the template editor. So go under the hammer icon templates, and then the one sheet templates, and then go ahead and apply them to the transaction. So once they're created in here, then you can come over to a transaction. Actually, let's just go to history. And we'll just select that last transaction we were in. And then, so once you're in here, you're going to come over to the one sheet section, and you can just apply that one sheet to the transaction. So I already have, let's see. Let me go ahead and take this test and go ahead and delete this out of here. So I can create a one sheet. Let's just call it test. Submit. And so now I can apply a template to that. And then my templates are basically just grabbing over in that template menu that I just showed you. And we're going to apply this one. And there you go. Now, if I go back to my one sheets, I have my test in there, and then I can go and do my schedule and send and all that good stuff. Okay. Anyone have any last questions? We are out of questions. We have about 22 minutes left. I'll keep going if you guys have more questions. In the meantime, let me just point out one feature that I was just talking to someone about the other day. If you are working on like your documents or contacts or fields or anything, and you're like, I have to remember to send this by the end of the day. So I think everyone knows by now, my motto on my team is no red before bed. If I see that there's red on these bars, that better be gone by the end of the day, or we, as a team, we better have a really good reason why we didn't do that on the date that it was due or past due. So if I am wanting to remember something, I can hit this priority bar and make it a high priority. And that's going to actually, oh, there it goes. It's actually going to make it red. And then, so I can't end my day before this red. So let's just say I do everything else but that document. Let's pretend that all this is gone. I'll come down here and my bar will still be red. And then I will see that this document was a high priority, and then I can take care of whatever I needed. It's just a way to jog your memory on documents, contacts, fields, and tasks, or notes, sorry. So yeah, can you go over when you would want to use a trigger template versus a task with a trigger? Every single time. So me, I hate tasks. I just hate them. I hate having to go to a system and look through tasks to see what I need to do. Like, that's just not my favorite thing to do in the world. And you can be a lot more efficient using triggers. So for me, there's a very few things that I would ever put a task in. Usually tasks are just reminders to my TCs for something that they don't want to forget, something that they want to check on. But for instance, send opening emails. That may be my task, and then I may have triggers in there to send out the opening emails. Why not just put the emails in a trigger? And that way you don't have to deal with the task. And now when this is ready, so if your conditions are when I start the file, 0 days after file submission, immediately. And then if it's to the lender, you could say if it's financed, right? Because we don't want that email to go out if it's not financed or if there's no lender on the property. So you can set those, and that way it's only telling you the things. So they're all going to sit in this in process, and they're all going to have red on them. You're going to be able to see that this one's not going to fire until there's a home inspector. Okay. This one's not going to fire. Well, that's a different thing. I'm not going to go into that here. This one is the contract status has to equal peanut butter before it can fire. So right now the status is pending. If I change this to, let me see what this is. This is 1, 2, 3 property. Let me actually get out of here for a second. Property default email, 1018 past due. Okay, so let me just change this to peanut butter. And I'll go, where's peanut butter at? There it is. Okay. Nope, I don't want to do any of that. Okay, so now if I go up to ready to go, here's my 1018. Because that's true now, see it's black. Now that it's true, it popped into my ready to go. So it's actually telling me by the health bar, hey, you have things to do. And this is going to get more advanced as we go. But to answer your question, like if you can turn a task into a trigger, it should be a trigger. There's just no reason for you to have to go to a task list every day for 60 or 70 different properties to check what's going on. So if there's always something that you're doing with a task, right? You're not going to a task just to look at it, or else it wouldn't be a task. So like if it's like, hey, I need to send an email to escrow, or I need to deposit earnest money, or I need to do this or do that. Usually there's an action that's associated with it, whether that's add a field, subtract a field, add a new template, subtract the template. Usually it's one of these things. Send a message, send an email, send a text, add or remove a template, add or remove a field section, add or remove a field. Okay. So that's typically what's happening is you're doing something. And so what I do is I just figure out what that something is and then make that as what I'm doing. So I need to send an email anytime this happens. Well, the anytime this happens is your conditions. So if this contract status equals pending and it's a finance deal, then I want to send this email. Do I want to do it immediately when these things are true, or do I want to wait 3 days before closing on like a repair request or something like that? So you can do that as well. So I know I was trying to be funny at the beginning saying everything, but that really is the case. It's anything that you can change a task into that you can equate what that action is to change it. I would definitely do it because it's less that your staff has to worry about. Let the system tell you when these things are true. Then you become a field changer, a document changer, and a contact changer. Those 3 things are triggering pretty much everything in a real estate transaction. Now, if you come across something that doesn't, add a task or call us and say, hey, this is the situation. I want to have a trigger, but for some reason it doesn't work. I haven't really run into anything yet that doesn't work, but if you run into things that don't work, let me know and we can walk through them, and maybe that's something we can add to the program. All right. We ask on our intake forms what type of loan, but we're having to re-enter the same on the left side of the screen once it's approved. How can it show up automatically? You shouldn't have to reapply that. Like if you're asking what type of loan, you should have a field called loan type, right? And your choices should be conventional, USDA, FHA, whatever, right? Now I have a subtype on that too. So I'm trying to think of what's in my subtype. I think I have seller financing, then under seller financing, I have some subtypes and things like that, or whether it's a sub 2 loan or a sub 2 transaction, or whether it's like a, oh man, my mind's going blank right now. Whether it's a to B to C transaction, things like that, like a wholesale deal. So, but you can get really detailed. The more that you want to happen, the more you need to think about subfields. Like, okay, it's great that it's financed, but what type of financing? And then even maybe there's even a sub of what type of financing, because the more detail you have, the more triggers you can apply over the course of the transaction. So to answer your question though, Tammy, if you fill out that intake form and it doesn't appear here, then we have a bug that we need to take care of right away. Like that should never happen. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any tickets on it. So definitely shoot a video, show us going through that intake form and show us not showing up on this left side. That is a big bug if that's what's really happening. So we need to know about that right away.
So I think that I've seen some requests on this before with your account, Tammy. And this would be my suggestion. The field that you're filling out on your intake form, I would first figure out where it's located. So Andrew, if you want to go to the field editor, you can have multiple different types of fields. You can have one that's called like, what type of loan is this? And then you can have one that says, what's the financing type? And so if you have two fields that ask the same question, and you have one that's on your intake form that you're asking, that's in one area. And then on your property, you have the same exact field named slightly different that is in a different field section. That could be where you're seeing the issue. So what I would do is I would go into your field editor, take a look at your fields, make sure that you don't have duplicate fields. If you do, then you'll need to combine those fields. So decide which one you want to keep, which one you want to remove. And then from there, you should be good.
It's a good point. So don't delete whatever you do. Don't delete that other field. So if you're going to combine a field, and this is just the best practice for everyone in here, create a section called archive, and you can even put it into a different field group so it's not showing on your main screen, but put an archive section. Don't ever delete a field. You can eventually delete it after like 6 months that you feel comfortable that you never needed that again, but I've seen too many people delete a field and then they accidentally deleted the wrong one, or they didn't understand what was actually connected to it. There's a new button here, this little inspect button. If you're on version 2 pricing, if you're not on version 2, you should definitely switch over. But this is going to show you everywhere where that field is. So if you have two very similar fields, let's say I had contact status and contact or contract type, let's just say, and they were the same options and I accidentally did that. Well, you need to come into both of them and see where they're located throughout the transaction, because you're going to have to clean that up. And you're going to have to say, like, if I wanted to get rid of this field, then I'm going to have to go to this and replace it with what I actually want it to be. Replace this, replace this, replace this. So make sure this is totally blank before you're deleting that field. Make sure the smart block gets cleaned up. And then change a field name versus deleting a field. So like if you're like, oh, I don't want it to be contract status, I want it to be contract status, blah, blah, blah. Well, come in here and change this name so that all of these are still working, versus coming in here and deleting this and adding a new one. And now you have to go back and re-input that into all of these templates. So just be real careful. Hannah's telling you to do the right thing. Just be extra careful that don't delete.
I would say whatever one you have on your intake form, you might want to just move that over to a different area. Most likely what's happening is you're asking, if you scroll up to the top, Andrew, and you go to the field group and you go to where it says intake questions, most likely you're asking what's the loan type underneath your agent intake questions. And then you have another field that's underneath your details that's that field that shows up on the left-hand side once it's approved. That's most likely what's happening in your case. So what I would say is either you're going to want to take that field that's in your intake questions and move it over into your details, or decide if you want to keep both, but it'll always be a manual entry because there's no way right now to relate one field to another. There's no way to automatically have one field completely separate relate to another field that's completely separate.
Yeah, and if that was happening, I have a strong feeling that that's probably what's happening, because if it just wasn't appearing, the value in there, we would have got 5,000 tickets in about 10 seconds.
Yes.
So I think that there's probably something going on there that we can take a look at and just clean up your fields and how they are being interacted with. Cool. Okay, well, we got 11 minutes, so we're close enough. I'm gonna let's see here. Yeah, so if I don't get any more questions in the next 2 minutes, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, but appreciate everyone being here. Thanks for all the questions. You make my life a lot easier when you guys are asking good questions, so I don't have to think of everything myself, but hopefully that was helpful. Same time, same place next week. And definitely check out these, definitely check out the group classes that our onboarding teams are putting on, because they are super, super helpful, and they're going to get you unstuck on a lot of those categories that you're just unsure of. If you're struggling with documents or you're struggling with whatever, it's a very, in-depth cursory look at like, hey, what do I need to tackle in this component to be successful? And they're going to give you best practices from other people that you may not have thought of. So even if you don't use them, it may get your brain working in a different direction. I always see that with triggers. People ask me about triggers all the time, and I tell them how to do it. And then it gets their brain working where they're not quite ready to embark on changing all their tasks over, but it gives them some ideas of how they could better utilize their tasks. So yeah, definitely attend those as well if you have time, because they're really helpful, and our team spends a lot of time putting those together.
Yeah, today we're begun this afternoon. So in an hour, we're going to be going over creating properties 101. If you guys want to sign up for that, you're just going to navigate to opentoclose.com, click on webinars all the way down at the very bottom of the webinar page. That's where that link is to register.
So you're going to come here to learn webinars here. This is our help guide. Here's the webinars. And then which
All the way
one
down.
did you say this was?
The very, very bottom one.
This one?
Yep.
Okay, so there you go. Creating properties, afternoon class. So you see how some of them say afternoon and some of them say morning. So I'll give you some indication on when they are, and then you can just sign up. So lots of good stuff in there. All right, guys. And I hope that answered your question. If not, you can always hit up support and they can help you out more. But yeah, just come to the webinar, learn webinars on our home screen, sign up for anything you want. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll see you next week.